Fandom, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about Batman Endgame, and we're going to see if this beautiful little collection is worth your hard-earned cash. So, let's get into it. So, what do you need to know? Batman Endgame is written by Scott Snyder. For those of you that don't know who Scott Snyder is, he's pretty much one of DC's most prolific writers. And I mean that in the sense that as soon as he came out into the mainstream comic book market, he blew up. Like, his star shot up. Mainly with the book called Black Mirror. For those of you that have never read his Batman run on Black Mirror, I urge you, go read it. It really is some of the best Batman stuff that's been written in probably like the past 10 years. Around 2013, Scott Snyder was able to write his very first true Joker story. Now, comic fans out there will know that the Joker makes an appearance in Black Mirror. However, he's not a prominent character there. The first true Joker story that Scott Snyder got to write was Death of the Family. You're probably wondering, why are we talking about Death of the Family? Well, in many ways, Endgame is a true sequel to the events that happened in Death of the Family, so bear with me in 1 second. In Death of the Family, the Joker sets out to prove his love for Batman by killing or attempting to kill all of Batman's sidekicks and the people that are closest to him because, according to him, they make him fat, weak, and slow. Essentially, it's a love story of the Joker. You see, where Death of the Family is a story of Joker's love, Endgame is very much a story of Joker's hate. And boy, does he hate Batman in this run. At the start of Endgame, Batman is attacked by the Scarecrow and he is drenched in fear toxin. Now, Batman ends up recovering and waking up in a hospital bed, but what he soon finds out is that all of the members of the Justice League have turned on him and have started to attack him. Batman then realizes in a very, very shocking and stellar moment that the person that's behind this attack is in fact the Joker. Yes, the Joker has somehow managed to turn the entire Justice League against Batman. Batman soon finds out that the members of the Justice League have been infected with a new, more powerful strain of the Joker toxin, and after finally having been able to subdue every single member of the Justice League, including going toe-to-toe with Superman in this story, he then hunts down the Joker by going back to Joker's original cell in Arkham Asylum. Batman arrives in Arkham Asylum to discover that the Joker is waiting for him there and that he has something to confess to him. He basically tells him, "I am tired of this cat and mouse game. I'm bored. It's time to end this." The Joker reveals that he has released an incurable airborne toxin in Gotham City that turns feelings of love into feelings of hatred from anybody that laughs. That's pretty much the general gist of what I'm going to tell you about this story. However, I'm recommending that you do go back and read the previous volumes of this series simply because it seems like everything that Snyder was building towards was this book. It definitely feels like everything involving the Court of Owls, the Joker before it, all the villains before it, all come to a head in this book. And in many ways, it definitely is a bookend for the story that Snyder has been trying to tell for about 2 or 3 years. What I also really enjoyed about this is just how well Snyder is able to play with your expectations, because throughout the entire run, he's introducing new concepts of the Joker and introducing a kind of new mythology to it that I actually enjoyed a lot. Now, I know it was a bit of a mixed bag for a lot of fans. I'm not going to ruin what it is here, but trust me, just know that when you do get to the moment, it'll be something that you're either going to go with or something that you're probably not going to go with 100%, and you're going to probably go, "I'm not entirely sure I like what he's doing here involving that certain mythos that he's introducing." I will say this though, stick with it. Everything that Snyder is able to lay out in the first few chapters of this book and in the first few issues do eventually for the most part pay off. Now, I know there are a lot of fans out there in the comic book world that think Snyder doesn't necessarily always stick the landing in his stories. I think out of all the arcs that he's written, Court of Owls, Death of the Family, etc., this is definitely the best ending that he writes. It's a very firm conclusion, and in many ways, I think this is really where he should have ended his run. What I also really like about this edition in particular is that it includes all of the tie-in issues for the Endgame series. And what I mean by that is that you're going to read an issue of Batman, and yes, it is chronological order for those of you that are wondering out there. You read an issue of Batman, then boom, next issue is the Batgirl tie-in. Then boom, next issue is like the Robin tie-in. It's a really great little package that they put together here, and I really do appreciate that they put it in order. Thank you so much, DC, where a lot of other companies like Marvel, and even in some of the smaller companies, I'm not going to name names right now, they don't put the tie-ins in order. They either kind of mix them up all over the place, or they stick all the tie-ins in the back, or they put the tie-ins in the front, and then it's just kind of a pain in the ass to actually read the story in the order that it was published. Not in this. For those of you that are out there that just want to barrel through the main story and not read every single tie-in, feel free to do so. It's a very self-contained story, and I don't think you really necessarily need all of the tie-ins to get the best experience out of it. Like most of DC Comics and most of Scott Snyder's writing, you are perfectly fine just getting the main chunk and going through it, and you'll understand everything that's going on, all of the character motivations, and all the action scenes. Let's talk about the art for a moment, and Greg Capullo here is in top form. Where in Court of the Owls, Greg Capullo was just coming off of a comic book hiatus. A lot of his stuff was good. It was really good in that arc, but it was a bit rough. This is Greg Capullo 3 years later working on Batman consistently month after month, and he has honed and refined his skills to peak performance here. What I love about Capullo's art style so much is that it has a hint of kind of a cartoony feel to it. It's not too hyper realistic, but it's not too cartoony at the same time, where there are certain exaggerated features on characters such as chins, eyes, a little bit of the hands and things like that, but it stays grounded in reality enough that it's relatable. Going into this, you can tell that Capullo put his heart and soul into every single panel, and what I really enjoy about this is that it seems like Capullo went into this arc especially to prove people wrong and to prove them that he's more than just a Spawn knockoff, that he is one of the best artists in the industry right now, and oh my gosh, does he prove it here. Some of the action scenes in here are absolutely fantastic, and they are choreographed like some of the best comic book artists that are around today, mainly because Capullo is one of those guys. He is one of the best artists in the industry today, and I think there is no better proof of that than this arc. If I'd have to give this a negative criticism, it's simply because of the fact that I don't think you can jump into this book and get the full experience. I think you really do owe it to yourself to go back and read all of the other Scott Snyder Batman books that came before it, because like I said, even his Black Mirror run in some ways ties into the events that happen in here. And as a standalone story, while it does work, if you wanted to jump into Endgame, you can totally do that. I think you really owe it to yourself to get the most out of this book. You need to go back and read everything else that the guy has written before this. Also, as a side note, for those of you out there that are wondering if there are any special features in this particular hardcover edition, there really isn't any. Now, the covers are in here and they are placed in between issues, but for the most part, it's just a story and that's it. I rate my books on a pass, borrow, buy perfect scale, and to be honest, this is a solid buy. I think you definitely owe it to yourself to pick up Endgame. It's a fun read all the way through, and in some ways, it is a perfect bookend to the story that Scott Snyder has been writing on Batman for about the past 3 or 4 years. If this is your first time checking out my channel, I do weekly reviews of trade paperbacks, hardcovers, special editions, I do trailer reactions, I do reviews on omnibuses and absolute editions. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and if you do feel so kind and you want to throw a couple of shekels my way, my PayPal is going to be found right there and in the description below. If you've read Endgame, please let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Love you guys, have a great week.